this video, we're going to continue our discussion of Denmark and Finland by looking at who has absolute and comparative advantage in the production of eggs as well as ham. Question C asks, which country has the absolute advantage in the production of eggs? And which country has the absolute advantage in the production of ham? To do this with the input method of production, we need to look at who can produce a dozen eggs or a pound of ham with less inputs. So let's look at this first column here and the number of hours it takes to produce a dozen eggs for Denmark and for Finland. We see that Denmark takes 10 hours to produce a dozen eggs, while Finland only takes 6. This is going to tell us that Finland has the absolute advantage in the production of eggs, since it takes them less inputs to produce a dozen eggs. To answer the second part of this question, we need to look at the second column here. That is, we need to see how many hours it takes each of these countries to produce a pound of ham. We see that it takes Denmark 6 hours to produce, while it only takes Finland 4 hours to produce. So again, Finland has the absolute advantage in the production of ham, since it takes Finland less inputs to produce a pound of ham than Denmark. Part D asks, which country has the comparative advantage in the production of eggs, as well as which country has the comparative advantage in the production of ham? The key to figuring out this question is to figure out who has a lower opportunity cost of producing eggs, as well as who has a lower opportunity cost of producing ham. And that will tell us who has the comparative advantage in each of these two goods. So in the last video, we saw how to calculate opportunity cost when we're given the input method of production. So I'll assume that you know how to calculate the 4 opportunity costs we need to calculate. So what we need to do is just make a little table with all the opportunity costs in them. So let's title the table Opportunity Costs. The first column will be for eggs, the second for ham, first row will be Denmark, second row will be Finland, and now we can just list the opportunity costs. Like I said, we saw how to do it last time, so I'm just going to fill them in. So the opportunity cost of eggs for Denmark is 5/3 ham, and the opportunity cost for ham is 3/5 of a dozen eggs. For Finland, it's 3/2 ham, and the opportunity cost to produce ham is 2/3 of a dozen eggs. Now to answer which country has the comparative advantage in the production of eggs, all you have to do is look at this first column here and see that Finland has a lower opportunity cost to producing eggs than Denmark. And that's because when Finland produces eggs, they're only giving up 3/2 pounds of ham, while Denmark is giving up 5/3 pounds of ham. So Finland has the comparative advantage in the production of eggs, since they have a lower opportunity cost. Of producing eggs. 3 over 2 versus 5 over 3. Now to answer the second part of this question, we can just look at the second column here, and we can see that in order to produce a pound of ham, Denmark's giving up 3/5 of a dozen eggs, while Finland's giving up 2/3 of a dozen eggs. So this is going to tell us that Denmark has the comparative advantage in the production of ham, since they have a lower opportunity cost of producing ham. 3/5 versus 2/3.